Goalpenda. Oh my gosh, I can't get this out of my head now. You started it.
I'm sorry, mate.
Hey, welcome to RB Global Tracks, which is Leipzig's very first RB Leipzig podcast in English. This one's brought to you by Richard and Mario, and amongst us, we are season ticket holders, passionate supporters, and not so neutral pundits. And both of us have been following Leipzig football since our childhood days. So that's like yesterday, isn't it? No. So if you want to hear about RB Leipzig, capture the mood of the fans in the city, and if you want to go beyond numbers and statistics, you are in the right place. We're delighted to welcome you on board, and let's go. Auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs. Guten Abend, Richard.
Guten Abend, Mario. Good
How
evening.
are you? How are you today?
I'm fine. A little bit exhausted. It was a very challenging week.
Okay.
Lots of work managing two fantasy football teams, and then preparing for our show. Yeah, but I'm good to go.
Sorry, you got to get your priorities right, mate. Brilliant. But I'm even happy. That makes me even happier to have you on board tonight. And you found some time out of your busy schedule. What are we going to talk about tonight, Richard?
Okay, of course we got our two key takeaways from the marvelous Man City game
It was
from
good.
Tuesday. It was
Yeah,
good.
lots of positives.
So we have to talk about a little bit about the injury of Xavi, and we will look forward to our encounter against the first FC Heidenheim 1846.
1846, guys. That's a lot of tradition going back with a lot of history. So yes, before we start talking about the key takeaways of the City game or the game versus City, I noticed a couple of things. First of all, during the match, the atmosphere were in Manchester wasn't so noisy until they scored the first goal, which was in the second half. You could actually hear those 1,200 Leipzig supporters quite well at times. So maybe everything was a little bit subdued because Leipzig for City is not that big of an opponent, but it was quite quiet, to be honest. But I also thought that when Leipzig actually was leading, when we were up 2-0, it seemed as if we were playing a PlayStation game and deliberately made Manchester City the weaker team. Maybe took off a couple of players and we were 2-0 in the lead. We couldn't just believe our eyes. And it was hard to really believe that we could sustain that until the end. But everybody was hoping for at least a draw. And I think that would have been deserved. But Haaland scored two quickly in the second half. And well, then everything else just took its course. But I think Pep did take off a defender in lieu of more offensive players. So I did get the feeling that they were throwing everything at Leipzig in order to get those 3 points. And just imagine Carvalho's offside goal, which was disallowed. It was right to be disallowed, but had he scored and equalized, you never know. We could have gone away with a point. But at the end of the day, I was a bit disappointed. It did feel frustrating and disappointing. But the next day, the positive thoughts did prevail. There's a lot of positives we can get out of this. And but at the end of the day, the team made us proud. Leipzig has a very good reputation internationally, and they earned a lot of respect. That's my impression. Still, we hate to lose. I mean, you can't get around that fact. So, Richard, would you like to share your key takeaway from this actually pretty good match? It was good to watch.
Of course. Yeah, you said it already. It was a nice match to watch, and we had our chances. And if we were a little luckier, we might go for a draw here and come back with a delighted feeling out of Manchester. But my key takeaway is our new top scorer, Goalpenda. With his 2 goals here, he is now the best goal scorer of our club's history in terms of minutes per goal.
Really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
he's now number 1. He passed Daniel Frahn and Timo Werner, and he got now 115 minutes per goal. And the other 2 I mentioned got 139 and 140 respectively. Um, okay, fair to be say that they got a lot more games though.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure and quite optimistic that Openda will sustain this level because he showed it already in the top league in the Netherlands and in Ligue 1 last season in France. And he always scored at least double digits in the past 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So this player fits remarkably good in our system, and I'm really glad that we have him on our roster and that he's healthy, and he will go for at least 25 points, goals, 25 goals this season. Mark my words.
Across all competitions.
No, Bundesliga alone.
Oh, come on. Really?
Yeah, bold prediction. Here you heard it first. And yeah, nobody should ever tell me again that this guy was too expensive. All right, forget about the story.
The 43 million, sort of. The price kept going up
Worth
and
every
up.
penny.
I know. We got used to him scoring almost in every match, and once or twice at least. And do you remember poor old Silva, Sörloth, who came to Leipzig, and they never produced that. So I do miss Kunku. I do miss him, but I think Openda, or how did she call him? Goalpenda. He's doing really well, and it really helps us to the point that our friend Timo is really struggling to get back into the squad, but that's another thing. Okay, this is an interesting takeaway. It's just I'd like just to share one more thing that I took away from the match as well. First one would be it is really refreshing to meet teams on the international stage, which are not from the Bundesliga, because you don't get that spiel about us being just a marketing tool and not the right club with a lot of history, especially when you play teams like City, who have investors who actually own the club, which would never happen in Germany. Oh, just a few exemptions, though. We do have a few exemptions, but Leipzig's not one of them. You don't get that stick about, that we are a new club. We don't have any history. We shouldn't be there. We just bought our way into the league. None of that. None of that. So that in itself is really refreshing. But the performance and the match playing City, who we'd lost 7-0 in March at Manchester at the Etihad, and actually being in the lead and just losing a very tight game. That reminded me of our encounters with Bayern Munich. Do you remember how long it took us to actually beat them at home? And it was only once with Hasenhüttl, and it was very cold. But our away games, I remember the first encounters with Bayern Munich in the Allianz Arena, where we struggled to finish the match with 11 men. Well, we always had a red card, so that was what was one tradition. Even at home when we played them in the Dave Pokal, I remember that as well, and we lost to them in penalties. Gulashi made great save, by the way, many of them. It took us a long time until we didn't lose. Remember the 3-3 draw under Tedesco? Beautiful game, and we felt we could have won that. But it still took us until last season where we beat them 3-1. And then in the Super Cup again. And now it feels like we're really able to even beat like teams like this, the Uber teams of the Bundesliga. We can actually be very confident and go and beat them. Now with Manchester City, that is a draw even above that. They are better than Bayern Munich, and they're in the line of Real Madrid, Barcelona. With well, arguably, I think City is the best team around at the moment. And we were able to tease them. We were able to upset Pep Guardiola, and we forced him. Well, Marco Rose or the team forced him to come up and change his strategy, tactics during halftime, and really throw everything they had at us in a very convincing way, though. And I think that just shows that we're on the way of something of greater ambitions. It just takes a lot of tiny step. But we also do voice that. There was a moment in the press conference in Manchester where Marco Rose was asked by a BBC representative if Goalpenda's 2 goals would really raise a lot of awareness and incur interest, arouse interest in this player, especially by teams of the English Premier League. Marco Rose replied, "Well, we've always developed young players to then take the next step, either at our club or in a bigger league, such as the Premier League. But he also said that there are more and more, they're getting more and more successful in actually keeping players for longer, maybe even for their whole career, and that is the aim. And so they continue to develop youngsters, but they're trying to keep them longer in order to get to these ambitions. And I think it'll take more time and more tiny steps until we are able to qualify for the knockout stage on a regular basis. And we seem to be doing that, but then we don't get past the best 16, the last 16. So in order to get into the quarter semifinals, I think that'll take much longer. But also in order to have a shot at the league title of the Bundesliga title, the Schale. Oh, I don't see this in the next couple of years, to be honest. But we're aiming towards that, and we're getting closer. And I think give it a few more years, and we could be very close. And it's very very good to see that the club is actually voicing that instead of giving out that narrative. Oh, we're a young team, we're learning. Willi Orban said that last year. I think we're still a young team and we're still learning. Well, no, you are a team which has young players, but also experienced players, and you have a great mix. And I think we're on the way of something really great, but it takes longer and a lot of tiny steps. That's just my key takeaway from this match, which I think is a positive one.
I like this. I like this narrative. All right, that was a great story. It was a pleasure to listen.
Vote
but
for
there's
me.
but there's a little but. I have to
What would that be,
I have to
Richard?
put a little salt into this because
Okay.
hence the club invested huge amounts of money into the stadium and into the other club facilities and still doing. We have a lot of debts, right? So the last number I figured out was around 200 million that we owe someone else.
But some would actually argue, in our case, that doesn't really matter because the owner of Red Bull, they always put the money in.
Yeah, but in terms of licensing for the Deutsche Fußballliga, it matters.
And we are strict. In
Mhm.
Germany, we
Yep.
are strict.
Mhm.
Hello, UEFA. Huh?
The application for the Bundesliga is not valid. So what I wanted to point out is this our club will need some money next off season, and hence we are not that such a huge club as you mentioned, as Madrid or Barcelona, City or Juventus, Bayern, whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't make enough money out of some merchandise activities. We don't get this huge gazillion deals with some sponsors or like Adidas or Nike or Puma that are happy to pay like $500 million or euros for an 8-year span to be the company that supports our club. So we have to use the transfer amounts that we can gain from selling players. And next season, Danny Olmo has a release clause of 60 million euros. And to be honest, the club will need this money. And if there's no one willing to pay because of the injury prone of Danny Olmo, then we will very likely have to sell someone else. And maybe this
No.
have to be
No.
Goalpenda. So this is
Goalpenda.
I still love your
but
story, and I hope it is gonna be true. But yeah, we have to face the reality, and we need money.
it's interesting you mentioned with Danny Olmo because the narrative is that they're drip feeding this into, I don't know, media or already, that there is a 60 million clause and this exit clause, and it's gonna come into effect next season. I'm sure in their budget for the year after this season, which is next season, of course, it's already included. So similar to the German government, there it is only 60 billion. They might have a hole if they don't sell. Okay, and that could prolong the development and the journey to the ultimate success. You got a point there. I did notice though that we seem to be on our way. Maybe I'm thinking that this path is a bit shorter and we are able to gain that quicker, especially probably in light of the fact that we won the cup twice and we also won that strange super cup. So for this year we already have a trophy in that sense. It's not the most prestigious one, but we do have a trophy. But bearing in mind what you said, yeah, it might take longer. It might take longer. Interesting. Thank you very much, Richard. That was an interesting takeaway. So I believe there's some club related news as well, which we like to briefly mention.
Yeah. One news we mentioned, it's Xavi was taken off with a shoulder injury in that encounter against City. And he had an MRI on Wednesday, and the result was that it's only a minor injury,
Hmm.
some bruises or whatsoever on his shoulder, and he will be likely out for 10 to 14 days. So with a little luck and some right pills, we will might see him back against Dortmund. That would be very important if that would be the case. And so it's going to be interesting to see who will replace our offensive creative department with Olmo and Xavi not available against the next match, Heidenheim.
Well, I think that is a good moment to actually talk about this game, that versus Heidenheim.
Introducing our next opponent, der Gegnercheck.
Now, Heidenheim for this season is a new opponent for us, but we have played them before, all the way back in 2014, 2015, in the third division, where we only spent 1 year. Heidenheim at that point was already a regular team that featured there. In 2014-15, both our teams did get promotion to the second division, or Zweite Bundesliga, with Heidenheim being in first spots. I think same amount of points, just scored a few more goals than us. But then our paths parted. We went up to the first Bundesliga in 16-17. So I kind of lost. They kind of went off the radar, to be honest, for me, Heidenheim. And to be honest, if I think about that match on Saturday, it feels a little bit as if we're playing a team from the second Bundesliga in the DFB Pokal second round, which you need to win. And it doesn't mean any disrespect to Heidenheim, because I did watch a couple of games they played in this season, which were some were really entertaining encounters. But it's just it doesn't create much excitement, I must say. It's exciting to see our team, yes, but it's a similar level of excitement when we play Bochum, which is really strange, because 5, 6, 7 years ago we would have been so happy to be in the first Bundesliga. It doesn't matter who actually knocked it outdoor, but times have changed. So, Richard, what is your impression about Heidenheim?
It's funny you mentioned your last idea that no matter who came to our stadium when we were promoted to Bundesliga, it was a football a fiesta.
It, it, it was a feast.
It was a feast.
It didn't matter. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
And the same thing, I'm sure about that, is now for the Heidenheim players. Okay, so they were promoted the very first season in the Bundesliga, and no matter which is the opponent, it's every weekend a highlight game.
True.
And our players have to be aware of that. So for our players, it's Heidenheim. It's a must-win game. It's not an attractive opponent, and yeah, for Heidenheim, it's the opposite way. And as far as I followed their season so far, I recognized that they always showed glimpses of really good football on the pitch, even when they were down. They were down 2 goals in Dortmund and went for the draw finally.
Yeah.
They
Well
were
done.
down 2 goals in Munich and equalized that in the second half. Lost the game 2-4 in the end, but they showed that they are always capable of coming back into the game.
Mm.
And on the other hand side, this club showed some meltdowns. Okay, so they were 2-0 up against Augsburg at home and then lost 2-5, and I
Yeah.
got no idea how that could
I'll
happen.
bet you they don't know either. They can't figure it out either.
And then they played most arguably one of the worst Bundesliga games in the last couple of years, maybe even further back the days. This 0-0 draw against Bochum last
Oh, yeah.
Sunday. Boy.
Do you know, remember when you talked about the salesman of the Bundesliga trying to sell
Oh, yeah.
matches like these? I mean,
Yeah,
he would try to delete everything.
So, what I wanted to point out here is that this is some kind of jamboree bag. So there
Mhm.
is a certain level of skill which you have to respect, but there's the same amount of inconsistency. What will be good for us is they got 3 dangerous goal scorers. They got Kleindienst, Beste, and Dingchi each scored 5 goals so far. So they those 3 got 15 of those 17 goals they scored so far this season. But Dingchi is out for
Okay.
our match because of an yellow card suspension. He got this 5th yellow card against Bochum. And so 5 goals were taken off the board for the possibilities for the gaffer Frank Schmidt.
Mhm.
And that will be a huge weakening. I'm sure about that. So, how can we win here? I think I mentioned that there are comeback qualities. So, we have to create constant pressure from early on, score early, and then keep the foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't start to do some, don't start to get sloppy.
Mhm. Or try to take off key players in order to rest
Yeah.
them. If it's too early. In German, we have a nice word for it. It's Leistungssteuerung. Try to Google that. But some would say, this is a team, the lower part of the table. They may not present that much of a threat. We have a team with some key players who might be overplayed, who had to play a lot. We have quite a few injured players, but still, we should have enough quality in the squad to rotate quite a bit and just send out a team which can still be able to beat them. What would you think about that? Would that be something we could do?
No, not in my opinion. Because Heidenheim saw that we struggled against Bochum.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, 0-0 draw, and they saw that we lost at Mainz. So, and they might think, okay, we are not worse than Bochum, and we are not worse than Mainz. It's clubs to the same level than we are, and what they are, what were able to do, so we are. So I think this is not a good idea to send out some some players who didn't play recently just to give them some playing time. So I would
Hmm.
definitely not change the keeper, and I wouldn't leave Openda out or Schlager or
True. Yeah. Now
Henrik.
that you
No,
mention it,
no,
but are we
we
likely to face a team? Sorry.
no.
No.
Okay, I'm fine.
Are we are we likely to face a team which has a very experienced squad because they have been playing together for a while, and maybe Mr. Frank Schmidt is not rotating that much? Is
Yeah,
that what we need to expect?
yes, I do,
Mm,
I do think so because he had now five players started all 12 games, 2 more 11 games,
okay.
and 1 more 10 out of 12 games, and so that is some similar approach like Xabi Alonso does at Leverkusen. But I think because Frank Schmidt has to do it here because, in my opinion, only maybe 13, 14 Heidenheim players got Bundesliga level. So he's just not able to rotate that much. He cannot rotate 5, 6 players week to week. Because if he would do so, he would just send out starting 11 that isn't good enough to compete at Bundesliga level.
Okay. But you mentioned the Bochum game, and that brought back bad memories in the sense of that this was a team which was parking the bus and we didn't know what to do with it. Are we expecting something similar here, or is Heidenheim a little bit more willing to play ball?
I think both. They will park the bus, but then they will switch the toggle or whatsoever,
Mhm.
and will show that they're, if they smell a little bit of blood, they will go for a goal.
Mhm.
So that was what I meant when I said that we have to keep the foot on the gas pedal here.
Okay. So, in light of all the injuries we've gotten and people maybe out of form, I'm really looking forward to hearing who the hell would you send on the pitch. So, Richard's starting 11 coming up.
Liebe Fußballfans, wir kommen jetzt zu unserer heutigen Mannschaftsaufstellung.
Thank you. I would switch back from this 3 center back formation we saw against City to our well-used 4 back 4 formation. Excuse me.
Mhm.
So Blažević between the goalposts. No Gulácsi here. Gulácsi can go on the pitch against Bern, but this is another story. Henrichs, Klostermann, Lukeba, and Lenz. That was
Lenz. Okay.
Lenz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was wondering if he's still there. He's a Timo Werner lookalike, by the way.
In my opinion, okay, David Raum is better than most of our supporters see him, but I think he should get a break. But this is the only one. So,
Okay.
defensive midfield, Schlager, Seiwald, Carvalho. I would like to see Carvalho replacing Xavi here.
Yeah, that would be interesting because, to be honest, when he came on the pitch versus City, I thought, okay, come on, use your chance. Try to show us something. And he did. Okay, in the end, I didn't see much more either. Same with Chesko, maybe. But if he could, if he could really use this chance to shine and perform and convince everybody that he's a great addition to the team, which we all think he could be, then this is his Endspiel. That's his cup final, isn't
That's
it?
his cup final. Yes, yes. This is the mindset he needs to bring out on the pitch. Okay, this is my, as you said it, this is my chance to shine. This is my FA Cup, DFB Cup final, whatsoever. And look at me, I can score 2 goals against Heidenheim. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Alongside him in offensive midfield, I think Baumgartner, because Emil Forsberg, I love him. But to be honest, against City, he had like 10 ball touches in 60 minutes, 2 completed passes.
Somebody else actually pointed that out on Twitter and did a little stat, and he said, "I don't want to ruin the party here." And I love the, similar to what you said. I love the guy, but maybe it's about time.
Yeah.
Like Sina said in one of our episodes, and when her first reaction was, "What do you think about Forsberg's possible departure?" She says, "Maybe it is for the better. It hurts, but okay."
Yeah. I want to see the Austrian national team's Baumgartner here.
Yeah, love the guys.
So, and then I think Paulsen as wall player we need, and of course, Goalpenda.
Goalpenda! Oh my gosh, I can't get this out of my head now. You started it.
I'm sorry, mate.
So, what is your prediction in terms of score tomorrow? No, it's the day after. I'm not going there tomorrow.
4-2.
4-2. I'm going with the 2-0. There you go. Doesn't matter. We want the 3 points. I would take a 1-0 at this point as well. But 3 points and hopefully get back into the top 4 before we play Hoffenheim and Dortmund. That's going to be interesting to watch. Well, Richard, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us. And everybody else, thank you very much for listening. Do follow us on your platform of choice where we appear. Also, you can get in touch with us by email at talktous@rblleipzig.de. rbleglobaltracks.com. Also, you can find us on Twitter at podcast_RBL. We will be back with you next week. You have a wonderful weekend. And Richard, was sagen wir jetzt? Ja, auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs.